Algeria. A land where the golden sun spills over vast deserts, where the deep blue of the Mediterranean kisses the shore, and where mountains stand proud, guarding centuries of history. From the windswept coast to the green valleys of Kabylie, every pass, every goal, every cheer echoes with passion. And in this country, where resilience runs deep, football becomes a language everyone speaks. A way to celebrate joy, endure hardship, and stand together. It's here, in this land of breathtaking beauty and unwavering spirit, that the story was born. A story that would travel far beyond the borders of Algeria. And at the heart of it lies a club unlike any other. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Club ID series. The story I'm about to share with you today goes far beyond football. It's a symbol of hope and relentless determination. Something only a few clubs in the world have ever pulled off. A club admired across Africa for its unique style of play and with one of the most impressive track records on the continent. Nestled in the breathtaking mountains of Algeria, in the city of Tizi Ouzou, lies a team that became the pride of an entire people. In this video, we'll have the great honor to meet some of the club's legendary figures, and they'll take us through the most iconic places that shaped its incredible legacy. This is the story of la Jeunesse Sportive de Kabylie, or as everyone knows it, la JSK.
Il a fallu un détail pour que tout soit provoqué. Le détail, c'était qu'un jeune autochtone voulait faire du sport, ici, dans ce stade-là, et on ne l'a pas laissé entrer. Pas question. Ça a créé un brouhaha énorme en Haute-Ville.
Before we start, I just wanted to say that this video took a really long time to produce, and I'm doing everything myself, from writing and filming to editing and uploading the videos. So if you like my work and want to support me, there's no better way than to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share this video with your teammates. And so with no further ado, let's get the ball rolling. It all began in the 1920s in the streets of the upper town of Tizi Ouzou. The local youth, also called indigenous people, in contrast to the Europeans living there at the time, wanted to play football. And let me tell you already that this was not easy. Nowadays, you can go to your local pitch and join in. Back then, access to pitches was hardly allowed to indigenous people. So they played in the streets and made pitches of their own. This rapidly became a big thing, with each district of the upper town having its own team entering the tournament. Among them, a group of players led by Shirawi Mohammed Serir, who was the oldest of them at only 20 years old. He dreamt of forming a team, taking part in an official championship. This dream would become a reality in 1929 after massive efforts from the local community, with Kabylie's first indigenous sports association called Rapid Club Tizi Ouzou. The name was inspired by Rapid Wien, but also the colors with green and white on the jerseys.
Nous sommes au vieux quartier de la Haute-Ville, Lalla Saïda, un quartier populaire et populeux aussi, où justement est née la JSK. Les premières réunions, elles se faisaient là.
Every player, supported by their family and friends, brought their own equipment and contributed to the fees of the club. Shirawi Mohammed Serir gathered all the money he could to buy the first and only football of the club. Can you imagine? Just one for the whole club. The first season was as successful on the pitch as it was complicated financially. It took a lot of time and personal contributions from the players to keep the club afloat, with players taking the roles of managers and also taking charge of the equipment. The second season was full of promises, with even greater results, and Rapid Club Tizi Ouzou was starting to properly take off, making a name for itself in the region. But there was another club in the region, more powerful and established almost 20 years before. This club was Olympique Tizi Ouzou, or Auto for short. A club directed and mostly made up of French and European colonists. The rise of Rapid Club didn't go unnoticed by Auto, and it wasn't long before they declared a clear interest for Rapid players.
Et les autochtones commençaient à s'intéresser au football, c'est normal parce qu'il y avait du talent, et ils les dénichaient, l'OTO, ils les prenaient. on ne laissait pas les autochtones s'organiser et faire un petit club, pas question.
The influence of Otto, combined with financial struggles, marked the end of Rapid Club Tizi Ouzou after 4 years of existence. Some players of the club, facing pressure and alleged threats, joined Otto or stopped playing completely. And that could have been the end of the story right there. However, about 10 years after the dissolution of Rapid Club Tizi Ouzou, the idea of an indigenous football club was revived in 1942 with the help of a local lawyer named Sidi Said Hanafi. Encouraged and supported by the locals, he prepared all the paperwork necessary for creating a new club called Association Sportive de Kabylie and even sent the request for creation to the French Federation. However, his death in 1943 put the project on hold. Former indigenous Otto players tried to carry on his work, but not long afterwards, the emergence of independence movements resulted in massacres across Algeria, and the French government decided to ban all indigenous associations, bringing the initiative to an abrupt halt. We are now in 1946, post-World War II, and the air in Tizi Ouzou is thick with tension. Not just from the lingering scars of war, but from a brewing revolution. Both on the political front and, unexpectedly, on the football pitch.
Et la JSK, c'est un symbole réunificateur. Ils auraient pu l'appeler JST ou AST ou tout, par rapport à la ville de Tizi Ouzou, parce qu'elle est née à Tizi Ouzou. Mais leur vision était plus grande. Donc ils ont mis le K à la place du T pour rassembler toute la jeunesse kabyle autour d'un symbole.
In this context, a group of determined young men, under the shadow of colonial rule, dared to dream of something bigger. The creation of la Jeunesse Sportive de Kabylie, or JSK. The local branch of the CGT, a French trade union, proposed creating a corporate football team. This was not seen as a threat by colonial authorities, as corporate football was not really taken seriously. Led by figures like Hamoud Abbas and Saadi Wakli, who had the trust of the regime, they began organizing meetings at the CGT headquarters. The colonial powers, distracted by bigger issues, barely noticed. But little did they know, these meetings were the first steps towards something far more significant. A group of young indigenous Algerians saw an opportunity not just to play football, but to carve out a space for themselves in a society that constantly marginalized them. This created tensions amongst the group, and it escalated when the young members proposed affiliating the club with the Fédération Française de Football Association, or FFFA, instead of keeping it as a corporate team. This bold move infuriated Abbas, who threatened to withdraw his support. The future of the club hung in the balance, but after heated debates, a compromise was reached. The decision would be left to the members of the General Assembly. The stakes were high, and the clock was ticking. On July 29, 1946, under the sweltering heat of Ramadan, the General Assembly convened. The room was packed with passionate individuals, trade unionists, civil society members, and young football enthusiasts. And after intense discussions, they agreed. The club would be named Jeunesse Sportive de Kabylie, or JSK, with green and red as its colors. But the drama didn't end there. Abbas still opposed the FFFA affiliation and continued to pledge for the corporate football affiliation. But the young members did not waver, and Abbas eventually withdrew his support, leaving the club without a home as they got kicked out of the CGT headquarters.
Ils ont pris même les documents, ils sont partis créer le club dans un café.
That is precisely when Mohamed Srir Bailesh, a local merchant, offered his café, La Jeunesse Sportive, as the club's temporary headquarters. And that was it. JSK was born, officially recognized on August 2nd, 1946 by the FFFA.
Donc c'est un stade qui existe depuis peut-être, si je ne me trompe pas, peut-être 1910 peut-être. Voilà, je ne sais pas, c'était en tuf, c'était un stade très typiquement français, il n'y a pas de piste d'athlétisme. Donc il y a 2 mètres peut-être entre le terrain et les supporters, comme vous voyez. C'est un stade, je pense, de 8000 places, si je ne me trompe pas. Voilà, de 8000 places. Et la JSK, ses premiers matchs étaient ici, en 1946.
They started at the lowest possible level in the 3rd division of the Algiers League, climbing their way up with grit and determination. Every match, Every goal was a statement, a defiance against colonial oppression. By 1948, they were competing for promotion to the first division of the Algiers League, but heartbreak followed as they fell short. Yet, they persisted. And by 1950, they secured their place in the first division and carried on in 1954 by accessing the equivalent of what we'd call nowadays the regional level. Just as they were gaining momentum, history intervened again. In 1956, the Algerian War for Independence erupted and the National Liberation Front called for a boycott of all colonial institutions, including sports. JSK, like many other Algerian clubs, suspended its activities. But the club's spirit lived on. Many of its members, players, officials, and supporters joined the fight for independence. Some of them became martyrs, dying in combat or under torture.
Dans ce quartier de la Saïda, il y a eu des martyrs. Ils étaient tous dans le mouvement sportif, le scoutisme. Ils étaient tous dans un mouvement pour que justement la voix de l'autochtone soit enfin entendue, et c'était ça.
After Algeria's independence in 1962, JSK returned to the pitch, but the road ahead was anything but easy. The club had to start from scratch, navigating an unfamiliar football landscape and rebuilding step by step. They re-entered competition in the equivalent of the 4th division, finishing second, a result that earned them promotion to the 3rd division. The second national level was within reach, but they had to be patient. In their first season in the 3rd division, they secured a solid 8th place finish. Then, they went on to consistently place in the top 5 over the next 3 seasons. And finally, in the 68th season, JSK clinched first place and got their promotion to 2nd division. Building on that momentum, they spent just 1 season in 2nd division before topping the league and earning another promotion. Names like Koli, Koufi, Karamani, Wahabi, and Dirij are forever etched in the hearts of JSK supporters. Legends who helped lift the club to new heights.
Pour moi, personnellement, la plus grande des batailles à gagner à l'époque, c'était l'accession. Et on ratait à chaque fois, de 63 à 68, première action, on ratait toujours quelque chose. Et il y avait un homme du nom de Saïd Hassoun, il avait créé la première rupture. Il a fait ce qu'on appelle l'opération jeunesse. Il fallait rajeunir le club. C'est de faire confiance aux Koufi, aux Kholi, à Wahabi, des jeunes qui émergeaient. Et Tamar, vraiment la liste est longue, et juste les encadrer par des rescapés. Mais il a fait quelque chose d'extraordinaire, unique au monde. Il a transformé l'avant-centre en axial pour qu'il joue désormais la ligne d'hors-jeu. Il avait transformé Karamani, que Dieu lui prête longue vie, meilleur buteur d'équipe, en libéraux, on appelait ça libéraux, si j'ose dire, en axial maintenant, pour qu'il joue la ligne d'hors-jeu. Mais c'est terrible.
Ouais.
Ah, mais c'est magique tout ça.
Ouais.
Il avait réussi justement le coup. Et désormais, la JSK jouait très haut, elle jouait pratiquement très haut. Et les Koufi et compagnie faisaient le reste.
Et il était pour le but de l'accession.
It took JSK a total of 15 seasons and 6 hard-fought promotions to reach Algeria's top tier. And they've never looked back since. The 70s marked a big stepping stone of JSK making history in Algerian football. After 3 underwhelming seasons, the club decided to trust for the first time a foreigner coach, Virgil Popescu. Back then, having a foreign coach in football was pretty rare, and even more so in Algeria, which just goes to show how ahead of their time JSK was. And history proved them right, as in his first and only season at the club, the Romanian tactician led JSK to their first National League title in 1973. JSK players were celebrated all across Kabylie, and Mahyeddin Khalef was one of them. A player who will soon become much more than that.
Mahyeddin, il est arrivé, bon, il est passé, salut les jeunes, salut cher, il est revenu. Et il m'a vexé. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Je lui ai dit, c'était des claquettes. Il me dit, non, ça, tu les mets chez toi. On ne les met pas à l'extérieur. On ne marche pas avec des claquettes à l'extérieur. J'étais vexé, j'étais très jeune, j'étais le meilleur parmi les 19 et tout. Donc, quelque part, j'étais vexé. Mais avec le temps, quand je suis à mon tour devenu éducateur, c'est là que j'ai compris les valeurs qu'il nous a transmises indirectement.
And the first title was followed by another one This time with Petre Mindrou managing the team and Mahiden Khalif for his final season as a football player. The following years were less glorious up until 1977. JSK capped off a sensational season by winning their first ever league and cup double, with Mokran Bailesh finishing as the league's top scorer.
Just in the entrance of the stadium, so we're just gonna enter with everyone here.
Ce stade a été inauguré en 1978. Le premier match, on a perdu 2-1 contre l'ASO Sheriff à l'époque. Donc depuis le temps, on est toujours avec notre club qui nous fait plaisir.
Remember Mahiden Khalif from those first 2 league titles? After hanging up his boots in 1974, he returned in 1978 as JSK's co-manager alongside Stefan Zivodko, a Polish tactician. Together, they built one of the most formidable teams in JSK's history. But their start wasn't exactly perfect. After winning the league and cup double, they went on to try their luck in the African Champions Cup. After crushing Libya's Al Tahadi Benghazi 3-0 on aggregate, they nearly beat Zaire's AS Vita club, going out on away goals after a 3-2 win at home and 1-0 defeat away. The 2 following years, they came agonizingly close to winning the league, finishing just 1 point behind. And the real heartbreaker, that 2-1 cup final loss to Hussein, the exact same scoreline by which they'd won it 2 years earlier.
So this is actually where the cameraman is positioned to film the whole game. So we have the professional cameraman from the news, but also the professional cameraman from the club who are actually here to have a panoramic view of the game.
But 1980 changed everything. Jet didn't just win the league, they dominated it, taking their 4th title with a record-breaking 73 points. And this time, they were ready to take on Africa. They started by beating Tripoli, Libya's capital, in the first round and Horseid FC from Somalia in the second round. And after beating Zimbabwe's Dynamos 5-2 on aggregate, they faced AS Vita club again, but this time in the final. The home leg, a 4-0 masterclass with Lies Bahbou bagging a brace. The away leg, in Kinshasa, a solid 1-0 win, sealed by the legend Ali Belahsen. And when we thought it couldn't get any better, they went on to win the African Super Cup on penalties against Cameroon's Union Douala. It's no wonder the press named this team the Jumbo Jet, a roaring tribute to the squad that didn't just win, but cruised at high altitude. As Captain Mouloudi Boud lifted that Champions Cup, something magical happened across Kabylie. And this team wasn't done creating history. By 1986, they'd added 3 more league titles to their collection. And that same year, Nasser Bouich did the unthinkable.
C'était le meilleur buteur à la JSK, donc à l'époque des années 80, de fameux Jumbo, c'était Nasser Bouich avec 36 buts.
36 goals in a single season, a record that still stands today. And as if this wasn't enough, JSK set another milestone that season with a 98-point campaign in the 20-team league system, the highest points total in Algerian football history. Records that, decades later, still haven't been broken and might never be.
So here we're gonna go where the players are actually changing, so in the changing rooms. So this is the corridor where the actual players are coming out through to go into the pitch.
Ça, c'est les vestiaires du stade du 1er novembre. Le fameux Jumbo Jet, c'est le départ du fameux Jumbo, c'est par ici. Ce stade a connu beaucoup de titres. C'était une décennie, peut-être plus. Des grands messieurs qui sont passés par là. Et ça fait vraiment plaisir.
After 12 years that redefined Algerian football, the iconic duo of Khalef and Zivodko stepped aside in 1990. Their legacy? 6 league titles, 1 Algerian Cup, and that unforgettable African Champions Cup. A golden age where JSK finished outside the top 3 just once in 12 seasons. But football, like life, moves in cycles. The 92 season brought unthinkable struggles and a terrible 13th place, finishing with only 5 points separating them from relegation. Yet, when relegation whispers grew loudest, the Canaries responded with their signature resilience. That year's Algerian Cup run was pure JSK theater. 2 penalty shootout escapes, narrow victories, and a final against 2nd Division ASO Schleff that hung in the balance until Hakim Amaouch's last-minute winner. And true to their spirit, JSK weren't done making history. The very next season, they won the Algerian Super Cup in a dramatic fashion, edging MC Oran 6-5 on penalties after a 2-2 marathon. Proof that even in transition, greatness lingers. Mohan Sherif Hanashi, another former JSK player who only ever played for JSK in his professional footballer career, took charge as president of the club in 1995. He was well aware of the club's legacy he was part of, and within months, he made history. That year, JSK became the first Algerian club to win the African Cup Winners' Cup, beating Nigeria's Julius Berger 3-2 over 2 legs. An achievement only ever attained by JSK in Algeria, as the competition would soon vanish. Despite this great start, the late 90s brought chaos. Mid-table finishes, coaching carousels, and a gut-punch 1999 Cup final lost to USM Alger. Only striker Farid Raziz's 19-goal Golden Boot campaign in that season offered a flicker of hope. Then came the year 2000, a turning point soaked in both triumph and tragedy. Hossein Gasmi, a rising star courted by France's RC Lens, scored his final goal in a clash against USM Annaba. He headed in a cross from teammate Fawzi Moussouni, but was unable to avoid a collision with opposing defender Mourad Slatni. Gasmi fell violently on his head and lost consciousness. He was taken to hospital in Tizi Ouzou and then to the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital in Paris, but unfortunately died shortly afterwards of his head injury.
Gasmi était là. Il a sauté avec le joueur Slatni. Intercation sur la tête. Il a marqué le but qu'on n'a pas vu.
This tragic loss greatly shook Algerian football, and JSK responded the only way they knew how, by bossing African football. From 2000 to 2002, the Canaries achieved the unthinkable: 3 consecutive CAF Cup titles, a world first. Each victory dripped with drama. An away goal victory over Egypt's Ismaili with 2 draws, 0-0 and 1-1. Another away goal victory against Tunisia's Sahel Star with a solid 1-0 win at home and a defeat 2-1 away. And finally, a clear 4-1 win on aggregate over Cameroon's Tonnerre Yaoundé.
Pendant la décennie noire que l'Algérie a vécue, et c'est la JSK qui a redonné de la joie aux Algériens. C'est la JSK. Et je parle, j'ai la chair de poule, parce que c'est une réalité. La JSK avec ses titres africains en 1995, la Coupe des vainqueurs de coupe, et les 3 titres de la Coupe de la CAF en 2000, 2001, 2002, quand même la JSK a réussi à redonner de la joie.
Yet, continental glory came at a cost. While dominating Africa, JSK neglected home soil, finishing 3rd, 2nd and 4th in the league from 2001 to 2003. But in 2004, after 9 years without a national trophy, JSK reclaimed the Algerian title. And it's worth mentioning that Hamid Bergiga emerged as a hero, winning back-to-back golden boots. By 2008, they'd racked up a 14th league crown after rivals ES Sétif forfeited a critical match, a controversial twist that couldn't overshadow Nabil Hemani's 16-goal season. Even Sepp Blatter took notice, praising their success on and off the pitch. But darkness loomed, and another tragedy would soon hit JSK. In 2014, Cameroonian striker Albert Ebossé, fresh off a golden boot season, scored in a home defeat to USM Alger. As he left the pitch, a projectile thrown from the stands struck his head, and he died hours later.
Et puis juste après, j'étais là-bas encore, j'étais ici. Un match contre l'USM Alger, le décès de Albert Ebossé.
The aftermath was catastrophic. CAF bans, fan protests, and a club in freefall. By 2017, Hanashi's 24-year reign ended not with applause, but with protests. Though he delivered 10 trophies, including 4 African titles, the late years were marred by financial chaos and a near-relegation escape. And when he finally departed, JSK sat 12th, a shadow of its former self. Yet, through it all, one truth endured. In Tizi Ouzou, football isn't just a game, it's a story of resilience, of a club that scaled continental peaks, survived unimaginable tragedies, and still fights to reclaim its place in the sun. Let's try to summarize JSK's legacy with 28 official trophies. JSK isn't just Algeria's most decorated club, but it's also a continental powerhouse, as we've already said. Starting at the national level, with 14 league titles, a national record, including cup doubles in 77 and 86.
C'était en 86, on a eu le doublé. Donc il y avait le retrait de l'Arbès sur le flanc gauche, faire gagner l'ami le cuir dans le fil. J'avais 20 ans, donc c'était on ne peut pas oublier ce jour-là. Donc.
A total of 5 Algerian Cups with 6 runner-up finishes. And finally, 1 Algerian Super Cup and 1 League Cup. At the African level, they've got 2 CAF Champions League crowns in 81 and 90, so that's the equivalent of the Champions League in Europe. And they've also got 3 consecutive CAF Cups, which is equivalent of the Europa League, a world record for 3 straight continental C3 titles. And in 1995, they won the Cup Winners' Cup, a trophy that no longer exists, also in Europe. It was the former C2, making JSK its sole Algerian winner. And some of the astounding records we've already mentioned, with being the only Algerian club to win the African Super Cup in 1982, 7 continental finals, more than any North African rival, and of course, the pride of all JSK fans, the fact that in 55 years in Algeria's best league, they never got relegated. Before giving you the legendary 11 of JSK, we need to talk about the people JSK represents. The people from Tizi Ouzou and Kabylie as a whole.
Tout d'abord, ce n'est pas uniquement les Kabyles qui supportent la JSK. Les Algériens des 4 coins du pays supportent la JSK. Il y a des supporters un peu partout, pas uniquement en Kabylie. Et même en dehors du pays, il y a des supporters un peu partout dans le monde qui supportent la JSK parce que la JSK a pris une autre dimension. Avec ses titres continentaux, donc il a pris une autre dimension. Donc c'est un club quand même de renommée africaine, même mondiale. C'est un club rassembleur. Et c'est un club qui a réussi, avec ses valeurs, avec ses titres africains, a réussi à rassembler tous les Algériens.
There are so many songs and chants created by JSK fans that I cannot possibly show you them all in this video. It's actually songs that have been composed, the lyrics have been crafted specifically for the club. And what surprised me the most when I was preparing for this video is how good those songs are. I could actually listen to them casually or put some of them on at parties even.
La JSK, c'est un modèle de club, de rivalité sportive. Ça s'arrête là. Il n'y a jamais eu de vandalisme ou des choses extra-sportives. On ne les a jamais eu. Même ça ne va pas ailleurs, mais quand ils viennent ici, il n'y a pas de problème. Ils sont bien reçus. Ah là, on est comme ça. C'est ça la force de la JSK. C'est ça les valeurs de la JSK. On doit servir de modèle.
So I tried to ask which player should have their spot in the JSK Hall of Fame, but they didn't really want to name anyone in particular above the other, as JSK is one big family.
Je l'ai toujours dit, on a eu 2 familles. L'une c'est les parents, la deuxième c'est la JSK.
Le cordonnier aidait le club justement. Le cafetier donnait des chaises pour qu'ils partent jusqu'à Tiarrêter sur un camion. Attention, ils s'entraînaient à 6h du matin. L'un est parti à son Elgaz, l'autre à la Wilaya, l'autre aidait son père au commerce, revenir le soir, s'entraîner sur du tuf, aucun moyen. Ils arrivaient même à faire chauffer leur sandwich au tuyau d'échappement des camions. Et on me dit aujourd'hui, la JSK en D2 jamais.
Instead, they started to name all the players they could remember.
À l'image de Mourad Amara, Ali Chipano, Adrer, Babou.
Désolé, je ne peux pas les citer parce que je sais qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'anonymes qui étaient là.
Now, if we were to build an all-time JSK 11 purely by the numbers, of course that's a challenge, but let's give it a shot. Starting in goals with Mourad Amara, the unbreakable wall of the 70s and 80s. For 15 years, he stood guard with over 300 appearances 5 league titles, and immortalized himself as one of the heroes of JSK's 1981 African Champions Cup triumph. And in the defensive line, leading the charge is Abdelaziz Ben Hamlat, the architect of JSK's 1990s revival and 8 major trophies. Beside him, Mouloudi Boud, JSK's Ironman with 470 matches between 1970 and 1984, including 424 in Division 1. That's 14 seasons of pure top level. Next up, Dahman Hafaf, the African specialist with 50 continental matches over 16 years and the most titles a player at JSK ever got, with 13 in total. Closing the ranks, Rachid Adrir, a trophy magnet with 12 titles in his 12-year JSK career. Moving on to midfield maestros, and at the heart of it all, Ali Fergani, the legendary playmaker who won the African Ballon d'Or, 8 trophies, and the manager behind JSK's historic 1990 African Champions League win. Partnering him, Younes Ben Dahman, the engine that drove JSK to 3 consecutive CAF Cup wins in the 2000s. And don't forget Salah Al-Harbes, the magician with 12 trophies and with the most games at JSK with 500 matches in total. Up front, Areski Koufi, the pioneer of JSK's early First Division glory. He led them to their first 2 national titles in 1973 and 1974 and racked up more than 75 goals in his career.
Par exemple, celui qui n'avait pas vu, je ne sais pas, un Koufi, le sens du but du Koufi, n'a rien vu.
Then there's Nasser Bouyesh, the player with the most goals ever to play for JSK, with 137 goals in total, 113 in Division 1, 13 in the Cup, and 11 in African Cups. And rounding it all out, Ali Belhassan, affectionately called Chipalo, the 70s and 80s fan favorite known for his creativity and enduring impact. And on the bench, of course, Mahjeden Khalef and Stefan Zivotko, the incredible duo that led JSK to that beautiful run in the 70s and 80s. So there you have it, a squad built on stats, trophies, and pure JSK DNA. But the debate's still open. Let's hear your take in the comments. I might just give you an honorable mention with Sheikh Oumar Dabo, who smashed 9 goals in 1 African campaign and holds JSK's record transfer sale. There's another JSK that I have not talked about in this video yet, and that is of course the JSK Women's team. And again, I was not able to find much information online about their history, but it seems like the first official JSK Women's team was created in 1994. Not the easiest decade to start a women's football team, I'd say, with the civil war happening in what they called the Black Decade. That being said, JSK thrived and built up their team for 4 years before the creation of the Algerian Women's Championship that saw JSK win the very first edition of the tournament brilliantly. They would win it again in 2002, and the future looked very promising. Unfortunately, their reign was cut short as JSK's chairman, Hanashi, decided to cut the budget of all other sports sections other than the men's team. And it was not until 2023, when the CAF required clubs to field women's teams for continental competitions, that JSK's leadership revived the women's section. And what a comeback that was! It's as if they never left the top level. For their first season back in 2024, the Lionesses of Djurdjura won the regional division without conceding a single defeat, and got promoted to the second national division. And this season, even better, they managed to win the Algerian Cup in a final against the previous title holder and the winner of the first national league, CF Agbou. It goes without saying that the JSK women's team can dream big and maybe will regain the title of the first national division next year. And so, the story continues, both for the women and the men. After the turbulence of the Hanashi era, JSK entered a new chapter under Sherif Melal in 2018, a time of rebuilding and ambition. Though the league title remained out of reach, the Canaries clawed their way back to continental level, reaching the 2021 Confederation Cup final for the first time in 19 years. A heartbreaking 2-1 loss to Morocco's Raja Casablanca couldn't overshadow their resilience. The same year, JSK won the League Cup, ending a decade-long trophy drought. The club's foundation are growing stronger, a state-of-the-art training center, funded by one of Algeria's richest men, Issad Rebrab, a revitalized youth academy, and long-awaited stadium named after Hossein Ait Ahmed, a historical leader of the National Liberation Front. The stadium officially opened in 2024 after 14 years of waiting. That inaugural derby win over Olympique Agbou wasn't just 3 points, it was a symbol of rebirth.
Et il faut capitaliser l'histoire du club parce que beaucoup d'hommes sont passés par ce club-là et des hommes avec un grand H, anonymes et connus. Tu vois? Si on ne capitalise pas leur parcours, on ne connaîtra jamais l'existence, ce qu'a été l'existence réelle du club. Voilà ce que je sais moi, parce que chaque joueur, chaque nom est un chapitre du livre.
Il faut avoir un musée,
Bibliothèque,
une
ouais.
bibliothèque
Les archives du club.
spéciale JSK. On ne peut pas oublier l'histoire et on ne peut pas. Voilà, pour préserver le patrimoine, on ne peut pas effacer l'histoire, on ne peut pas. C'est juste un appel. Nous, on connaît l'histoire. Inch'Allah, tout ce qu'on le sait, on va le transmettre pour d'autres. Voilà. Et merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Yes, the league title has evaded them since 2008. Yes, leadership changes from Melal to ATM Mobilis takeover in 2023 have brought turbulence. But through it all, one truth endures. JSK has never been relegated. Not once, not ever.
Donc le serment a été respecté, on a toujours trouvé le mot, jamais la D2, la JSK jamais la D2. On le sait le pourquoi. Voilà, parce que c'est un serment. Voilà.
Jamais la D2, parce que c'est le plus beau des titres qu'il ne faut pas perdre.
As the Canaries stride into their new stadium, a generation of fans whispers the same question. When will the next trophy come? History suggests an answer. In Tizi Ouzou, fire doesn't die. It simmers, and this is a club that has always known how to rise from the ashes.
JSK's journey is just one chapter in a much bigger story. A story of a land where football is more than a game, where every pitch, from the mountains to the coast, becomes a stage for dreams. Algeria is a country of breathtaking landscapes, deep traditions, and a passion for football that runs through every generation. And JSK is one of its proudest symbols, proof of how far belief, unity, and determination can carry a community. Before we wrap up, I want to thank everyone who made this video possible. The former players and staff who welcomed us with open arms, the fans who shared their stories, and of course the people of Algeria who showed us the true meaning of hospitality. Here on Data FC, I talk about statistics and machine learning applied to football and try to make it accessible to everyone, even with no background in mathematics. So if you've enjoyed this journey, please subscribe, drop a comment, and share the video so that more people can discover this club, this incredible club, La JSK. See you soon for another video where football's the game and data's the goal. And as we say here, 1, 2, 3, viva l'Algérie!